From the moment I open up my eyes, there's one thing that stays on my mind. The Love Her Show with the duo. You gotta love her, praise her, treat her right. Let your life reflect all the beauty that's inside of you. You gotta love yourself. Let the best of you shine through.
Welcome, lovers. Welcome back, lovers. I'm Kelly Fisher.
I'm Tana Gilmore.
And together,
we're the Matchmaking Duo.
So, oh my gosh, what a day.
What a day
have we had.
We've had a heck of a day.
Oh my gosh, we've been all over the place with clients and running here and running there. But one of the biggest highlights I think we always have is to be able to come and share a perspective with you on the Love Her Show with the Duo. So welcome.
Welcome. So again, we are certified relationship coaches, professional matchmakers, life coaches as well, authors.
We are. We're speakers, national speakers, and you can find us at thematchmakingduo.com, our website, and also on all of our social media. And we also are bloggers for essence.com and the love and relationship section.
Yes, we are.
So
today we are so excited.
I know, our speaker of the hour. So you know that our podcast is based on a lot of different topics, but basically it's love, life, business, and bliss. Mm-hmm. So for those of you who are just joining us, a lot of times, yes, we are life and relationship coaches, but we're also professional matchmakers. And one thing that we found in our business is that it's more than just love. It's more than just, who do you have? Who can you introduce us to?
It's so much more than that.
It's more than that. So it's really about, making the best you. So in love, in life, in business, and in bliss, just having a total person to be able to offer to someone else.
Because a better me makes a better what?
We. Oh. Yes, I do have my cowbell here, so don't cowbell. You even fret.
The cowbell stays.
It stays. It's going nowhere.
Unfortunately. But we are just so excited today. We have a treat for you, ladies and gentlemen.
We do.
We have a treat. We have the infamous Jack A. Daniels with us in the studio.
Oh, wow.
We were able to secure Jack.
Yes. So for those of you who don't know, so Jack is hanging on, but we're going to give a quick introduction and then you will hear from the infamous Jack A. Daniels. So Jack is celebrity psychotherapist, a TV host, an author, a master storyteller. And most of all, what we have him on today to talk about is he's the king of breakthroughs.
Yes, he is.
So he's a TV host of A&E's BlackLove. As I mentioned, he's a psychotherapist and founder of the Breakthrough Institute. So that's a new twist on love, money, and life. He's also one of the world's leading authorities in overcoming fears and getting people unstuck.
He is a 5-time best-selling author of books like Stay Out of Your Own Way and I Need a Wife. Where Are the Real Women?
Yes. And so some of the places that he's appeared, you've probably seen him on one of these, but over 350 radio broadcasts.
Wow.
Can I just ring the bell for that? So, it just goes on and on from Fox News, rolling out, Essence, the list goes on and on. So of all places, he has decided to grace us with his presence and his perspective.
On the Love Her Show with the Duo.
Yes. So welcome, Jack. Welcome, Jack A. Daniels.
I even get like the cowbells and everything.
You get the cowbell and all. You get all the bells.
You get the cowbell.
I love it. Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having me. This is awesome. I'm so excited about your new show and everything that's going on with you and the business of matchmaking and love and all of that. I'm just happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
You're more than welcome. So I know one of the things that is your specialty, because we've known you for a while in business and colleagues. So one of the things that we knew was your specialty is how to get unstuck and stay out of your own way. And how many times have we all had that, whether it's love, whether it's life, business, sometimes you just get in your own way. And I think, that is such an awesome topic for all of our listeners and people who follow us to just kind of delve into that topic today. So thank you for agreeing to talk about that more with us.
And it's so relevant right now. So when did you first realize that people were getting stuck in their own way?
Yeah, that's an interesting question because I don't know if it's one of those things that I actually realized. I think it was one of those things that I probably experienced myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I think for a huge majority of my life, I think I spent it focusing and chasing all the wrong things. And I think that being able to identify that and recognize some of those challenges and some of those things that were getting in my way was a point that I knew that this was something that I just wasn't struggling with alone. And it probably happened to me a little bit later in life than it happens for other people. So, for instance, I know I was around 30 years old, and it probably hit me right around that time frame in my lifetime that this was something that I was actually good at. And the funny thing is I actually stumbled across this whole identity thing. I had no idea I was good at helping people do this at all. I was in a job that I hated, and I was going to this cubicle and talking to these people that I didn't like, and I know they didn't like me.
Mm-hmm. We could be
And, someone at one point, I made a decision that I didn't want to be there anymore, and I actually left. But it didn't begin until I was over a friend's house, and I saw an article that was on her couch, and I was like, wow, that's pretty cool. You wrote that? And she said, yeah. And I'm like, I can do that. That's no big deal. I mean, and, it was more of a challenge. And then I did it, and I submitted it to a newspaper. And this is when people actually read newspapers.
Right. Yes, people used to have the paper religiously.
Yeah. So I submitted this article that I wrote to this newspaper, and they published it. And I was like ecstatic. I'm like, now I'm like this published author. And the guy, which was the editor, he calls back and he says, hey, this is really great. We've been getting some good feedback from this from a lot of our readers. Can you give us another one? I'm like, dude, I'm not a writer. What are you talking about? And then he said, well, just try to give us another one. So I sat down, I wrote something else, and then I gave him another one, and I submitted it, and he published that one too. And I go, wow, same thing happened. He called back and said, hey, can we get another one of these? This was really good. So I was like, okay, I'll try, but I'm really not a writer. And I sat down, I wrote another one, sent it in to him, and he published it. And not only did he publish it in one paper, but he published it in two. Now I'm syndicated. Right.
Oh, wow.
And I had no idea what I was doing. He called back and he said, listen, these are really good. We're getting a lot of feedback from these. You're causing a lot of buzz. Can you give us these on a weekly basis? And I go, dude, I'm not a writer. What are you talking about? And he said, we'll pay you. I said, well, that's all you have.
That changes everything. That changes everything.
I'm going to find out a way to write these things for you. So I started writing these things, and it just took off. And I was writing them every single week. And I figured that, if he likes it, somebody else is probably liking it. So I reached out to other newspapers and asked them would they publish it, and they started publishing it. Long story short, 6 months later, I was in 57 newspapers across the country talking about this topic. And it was so amazing. It happened really fast. And it was that thing that I kind of stumbled across and realized that I had this talent to do it because I had these stories that I needed to tell, and they related to other people and some of the things that they were getting stuck with as well.
Wow, that is amazing. I mean, as I hear your story, it's something that we talk about so often. So the power of yes. Mm-hmm. So although you said that you weren't a speaker, you continued to say yes, and your path continued to go in that direction just to, even explore it. So I know even for Tana and I, people would always come to us for relationship advice or business advice. We were always the go-to person. So I think there has to be something to be said for, saying yes and going on that natural path and overcoming that fear, even though that might not be something that you thought you were born to do, but just exploring it can, ultimately lead to your purpose.
Your purpose, absolutely. That's what I was going.
But it's that fear thing that really gets in the way. It's that little voice, and I actually call him a little hater inside of your head.
Yes, it is.
It gets in your way and puts this roadblock for what it is that you actually want, because you're always questioning whether or not you matter or whether you fit or whether it makes sense. The human psyche has this thirst for approval. And it's one way to get anyone to do something is to tell them that they can't do it. And in a lot of instances, but most of the time, if you have that little hater that's inside of your head that's telling you, you can't do this, that person is the strongest voice that's in your life. And so many times, many people fall victim and prey to listening to that voice. And you got to be able to embrace that fear, challenge it, and then move forward in order to get over it and get what it is that you actually want.
So it's interesting because you're almost convincing yourself that you can't do it or you're not enough.
Right.
You know?
It's not so much convincing. I think it's more so the doubt.
Sure.
I've counseled a lot of people over the years, and this whole idea of rejection, responsibility, resentment, redefining who it is that you are, repositioning who it is that you are, all of those different things create this level of doubt inside of a person because that little hater in your head ridicules and makes you question who it is that you actually are. So because of that, you then throw like this level of doubt that says, maybe I can't do this. Maybe I'm not good enough. Maybe I don't matter. Maybe this isn't where I'm supposed to be. And that level of doubt causes this frustration that allows you to then get into more distractions in your life to keep you from doing what it is that you're supposed to do. So it's this avoidance behavior for what it is that you actually fear because you're afraid of it because of that little hater that's inside of your head.
You know, Jack, and how many layers deep do you feel like it goes actually?
You know, that's an interesting thing. And I think it varies for different people. If we had a piece of paper, I draw one circle and I want you to imagine this. I want you to imagine drawing one circle, and in the middle of that circle, I want you to put you. That's where all of us lie. That's where all of us fit in. And we're right there. That's the nucleus of who we are. It represents everything that we do, our life, our love, and our habits, attitudes, beliefs, expectations. And then right outside of that circle, draw another circle.
Okay, we're doing it.
Within that circle, I want you to write the word shame. Because this is where a lot of your doubt, a lot of your driving forces, and the diary of the thing that keeps you stuck, that keeps you afraid is. So whether it's the fear, the pain, the rejection, abandonment, guilt, disappointment, disrespect, anger, judgment, feeling unloved, feeling unworthy, being exposed or frustrated and not being embraced or shy or used or hurt or blamed in some sort of way, there's that level of shame that's there because it's that shame that tells you you can't. It's that shame that tells you you won't. It's that shame that tells you you never will. Outside of that circle, I want you to draw one more.
Okay.
And in that circle, this is the biggest one. And I think people miss this on so many different levels. First, there's you. Then there's shame. Then there's excuses.
Got it.
Yeah, that's so
That's
true.
good.
And because of these excuses, because of these things that you do on a daily basis that keep you away from the
Entertainers, and that's often who comes to us as well. So what have you found that is specific to this really highly visible demographic that find themselves needing your support or maybe having this mask or costume and wanting to really get back to that initial circle of you?
You know, I had a friend who was always infatuated with this one actress, and he totally believed that she was the illusion of his fantasy of who he actually wanted in his life. And he talked about this girl like constantly. He was like, if I had her, my whole life would be, if I had a chance to talk to her. And I was sitting down and I was talking to him. I was like, an actor's job, their thrill, their total level of excitement, their sole purpose in life from what they feel is to wake up every day and to pretend to be someone else. You know that, Mike.
Yeah, it is. Yes.
That's their life.
You realize that. And I'm talking to him about this, and I was like, he's like, oh yeah, I mean, I didn't think about it like that. I said, but you know what that means. You understand what that means. That means that if they're pretending to be someone else and they love doing that, how can you possibly know who that person really is?
Right.
He curled up his lips and he paused for a second. He goes, you know, you're probably right. And then he said, but in that 10 minutes of me loving her, she could be who it is that I've always
She can be who I need her to be. She can be who I need her to be in that 10 minutes.
Whatever it is, I like the mask or the costume. I don't know what's underneath.
But my point is this. There's so many times that when you're talking about celebrities or high profile people, they have to pretend. And they're putting on this facade that they can't be honest with themselves. And so many times they feel like they're isolated and trapped and at the top. If you think about a mountain and people who are always talking about, I'm trying to climb to the top, I'm trying to get to the top. Think about the mountain. And if you're going up the slopes of that mountain and you get all the way to the top, the air gets thinner.
Yes, it does.
The population gets thinner. The ways that you can get back down get thinner, and there's nowhere else to go. So quite oftentimes when you deal with a lot of high profile people, you find that they're often isolated, and that isolation creates this level of frustration and alienation away from the community. So what I find the most is they simply need someone that gets it. Someone who they can talk to, that they don't have like the level of approval or the level of, I don't want to call it approval. I think the level of connection that they can't get because they're so far up at the top or they're so isolated. I mean, you think about it, you buy a bigger car, you leave some of your friends or a lot of your friends behind because of money or fame. A lot of your family doesn't understand, and they typically trying to pick at your pockets. And then, you know, you probably go out and you buy a big house in the suburbs and within a gated community, and now you're isolated away from the community. So oftentimes they just want someone who gets it and understands the craft. And oftentimes there's a difference between the gift and the guy, or the gift and the girl. And they just want to be the girl. They just want to be the guy. But so many times people view them as the gift, and it gets very frustrating when you have to be the gift all the time. And I'm the guy that really gets that and knows how to navigate around some of the emotional disconnects that happen as a result of being the gift quite often.
You know, it's interesting because, our clientele, we have some celebrity clients as well as politicians that are extremely successful.
And corporate too.
Yeah, absolutely. And they tell us that, oftentimes, especially our celebrity clients, they tell us that, I don't know if he or she is interested in me or, my career. So I don't know who has my back and who doesn't. I don't know who to trust. Yeah. And sometimes they're in their own way because they don't trust anybody. They don't know who is trying to take from them. They don't know who's an opportunist. And then so that usually causes them to, be stuck in a situation that we're often challenged with helping them get out of.
Yeah, and I think that also contributes even more isolation, because some of the isolation is warranted, and some it's like, well, I don't know if this person wants me for this, and then they're even further on that peak of the mountain that you mentioned. So, and that could be in corporate, it could be a celebrity, it could just be an everyday person who's been hurt in the past. It just depends.
But you know what? Some of it is self-selecting. This is something that I always like to talk to people about. You can choose who it is that you want to be.
You're absolutely right.
So there's some people who have this fear of not being who someone else views them as, or why not just be yourself and be the person that you are deep down inside and just show up. So, I mean, I've had lots of clients who just show up like average everyday people. They sit in the cheap seats. They don't have to be on the floor.
Right.
They go to the movies and the grocery store, just show up. But oftentimes it's that facade of thinking that you're going to fall from grace, or you're going to fall from the top of that mountain if someone sees you as normal. And normal is, well, I'll call it the new normal, is this level of transparency and authenticity that exists within our culture because of the levels of cultural curiosity that have impacted us from a social aspect, because, social media has changed these levels of access that we have to people. I would vouch and say there are no more celebrities. Simply because, and I think the internet and social media has killed it. And what I mean by that is the everyday person now has permission to interrupt your day at any given time.
Right.
And what is that? That means if I'm looking at my phone, or my phone has all of the notifications on it, and I'm hooked onto all of the social media outlets, whether it's Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, someone can say something that interrupts your day, whether for the negative or for the positive at any given moment. That level of access, I don't like, but that level of access exists in today's time. And so many times people are taking advantage of it. So this level of authenticity and access has almost discredited the idea of being celebrity or unreachable, because everybody's touchable nowadays.
No,
right.
Absolutely. I'm sure
you can send an inbox or a private note and get to.
Isn't that crazy?
You can get a response.
Yes,
you absolutely can. You have access to anybody you want, really.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that's
which isn't a bad thing in a lot of respects, because I think we need to have more connectivity. But on another level, because of that connectivity, it now breeds this level of disconnection, because so many people are turned off from it, where I don't want you to have access to me like that. I don't want you to know all my business and who my relatives are.
It's almost
my aunt is so crazy.
That's so true.
That's funny. I have a question for you, Jack. So, our audience is primarily successful women between the ages of 35 and 50.
Go, girl. You go. Whoever you are listening, you go, girl.
You go, right?
You go.
So what do you think the commonalities are that you see reoccurring amongst this demographic?
Unrealistic expectations.
Ooh, you said something right there.
Ring the bell.
I gotta tell you, I've seen this quite often, and I've been doing this whole, helping people find love, helping people find their stories for quite some time over the last decade. And unrealistic expectations is probably at the top of the list. And what I mean by that is there's so many times people have this level of certainty that they're going to get exactly what's on their list.
Oh, goodness, that list.
Oh, that laundry list.
Dreaded list.
Yeah.
Yes.
And the thing I always say is that your list is keeping you loveless in a lot of respects.
I like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the unrealistic expectations for a lot of women is this thing that is keeping them single, horny, alone. Their eggs are drying up, whatever the case. It's keeping them in these situations that aren't allowing them to have what it is that they actually want, which is love. And whether you're successful, whether you've got all the money in the world, whether you got this high-powered job, maybe you have one kid or two, you live in, 3-bedroom house and a 2-car garage out in the suburbs somewhere, and maybe you have a dog. But something is missing in terms of that level of love that you want, that yearning for connection and affection that sometimes you don't get because of this unrealistic view of what love looks like or what life should look like, because you've accomplished these things. And I found that oftentimes these accomplishments and accolades are trophies and things that you lead with, versus leading with who it is that you actually are. Mm-hmm. And because you lead with your accomplishments, you then don't give a guy or gal, I know it's, it's the 21st century,
sure,
a chance and an opportunity to really see you for who you are, because you have this image that you're protecting, or this thing that you've envisioned that it has to be perfect the way that you say it needs to be. And that has kept a lot of people stuck in terms of, and it's not just women. There are a lot of men that are stuck in that.
Yeah, sure.
Oh, yes.
Because you're looking for this idea and this fantasy that doesn't really exist besides your head. That's the only place it exists. So those unrealistic expectations, I believe, have been devastating to a lot of our relationships. And I think that if we can change the story of what that looks like, change your inner story, your inner belief in the thing that you're going after, I think if you change that story, you can change your life.
It's interesting because a lot of times they don't want to change. They want to stick to the list, which is really unrealistic, as we said. And they have all these accolades and these, degrees, and we're certainly proud of them. But you can't spoon with them at night. They can't keep you warm.
No,
they're doing nothing.
It's the same for men too, as you mentioned. So a lot of times we have male clients who will come to us, and because of their accolades, they've gone to the top of the mountain with their career. But they're out of shape. But they want someone who's more than half their age and fun and who loves them for them. So usually you can't get all of that. So you might have someone who's 25 but wants you for your money, or you want someone who loves you for you but more toward your age. So you're right. It does work both ways. So I'm glad you mentioned that.
Yeah, it does. It's interesting because we had a client that came to us. He's very successful specifically, and he wanted someone with a specific waist to hip ratio. We were like,
he did. Yeah.
What?
He sure did.
He did. He was very specific. I want a specific waist to hip ratio. It has to be this way.
Yeah.
She has to look like Jessica Rabbit.
So it's going back to that list and, how that compares to what you're offering too.
Yeah.
And I'm glad you mentioned that.
That's so horrible. That's absolutely so horrible.
It's pretty often, but yes, the dreaded list. So, as life coaches ourselves, so many people come to us feeling stuck or having fear of moving forward. So, as you mentioned, in love, it could be due to a failed relationship or hurt in the past, or in business, maybe there's a business they want to start, but they're more afraid that it'll fail instead of focusing on, what that first step is. So is your advice for being stuck in your love life the same as being stuck in your business or career?
Yes and no.
Okay.
And the reason I'm saying yes and no is the system is probably the same. So the format of things and the steps that you'd have to follow to be able to acknowledge a change is probably the same. Because if something isn't working, that means you need to implement something that's going to help you change.
Something different, right?
I just recently did a TED Talk. And
congratulations.
Oh, thank you.
Not much time to prepare, we saw. So again, you had to say yes.
That was an amazing opportunity and a chance to really push myself, because I've been on sabbatical. My wife and I've been on sabbatical, and we've just been kind of like refocusing and re-synergizing on how we want to approach the market and some of the projects that we're actually passionate about. And I've only done things in that time period that I'm curious about, or I'm passionate about, or that I get a kick out of, or that I can actually learn from. And I'm sticking with the point here to make this point. Ted called me a week before the actual TED Talk that they were hosting, and it was up in Delaware. They called me a week before and they said, "Hey, someone dropped out and we really need a powerful speaker to come in and take their place to fill this event." And I go, "So you're calling me, huh?" Which was a huge honor. And I said, "Okay, so what's the topic, or what vein do you want me to stay in?" And they're like, "Well, we're talking about dating and relationships." So, okay, I think I can come up with something. So I've had this topic that I've been kicking around in my head for the last 3 years, and I've never had a chance to really talk about it because I just, the opportunity hasn't presented itself, even though I've had dozens of speaking engagements over that time frame. I've been talking about other things. And I said, well, this would be a good chance to give this a trial run. Now, I've never talked about it. I've never written anything down, really. with the exception of some notes. We're constant notebook gatherers. We just collect notebooks around here with ideas. But, so I sat down and went through their rigorous process of completing this thing. And I had to have it done within 3 days, which meant the presentation had to be written out because they require you to send it in and they need to review it and all your outline and the whole thing written out, as well as you doing a video to explore what it is you're going to do. And I went through that whole process and I talked about, and I got up there and I rocked it, which it was cool.
Of course you did.
Congratulations.
You can go and look at that online.
Yes.
Make sure you go and comment and like it. It's called The Power of Your Love Story. And the thing about this is your love story is so important. And this is getting to your point in terms of what I challenge people to do things differently. Stories to me are the most powerful thing on the face of this planet, simply because they are suggestions and collections of things that we've had inside of our mind since we were babies. And because of these stories that we tell ourselves or that we sell ourselves, they leave us challenges to be able to do what we absolutely want to do or don't want to do, depending on what the story is. So the power of your love story suggests that even though one of the most powerful questions that I always ask people and clients and things like that, so what's your love story? Tell me your love story. And people always freeze and they go, wow, whoa.
Where do I begin?
Which one?
Yeah, that's an interesting question there, Mr. Daniels. And it's interesting to me because no matter how many clients I've seen hundreds over the years, I've pretty much whittled it down that people have only about 7 different love stories. That's it. Most people fall into these 7 categories when it comes to love. And I've been able to narrow it down with a collection of interviews and research, clients, and just a barrage of things that I've done over the course of my years. There are only 7 love stories that people fall into. The question is, which one do you fall into? And are you mirroring and matching with a compatible love story? Or are you finding someone who has no interest in what it is that you believe is for you? And that's where people fall victim to a lot of times, is that they don't really understand their own love story, let alone bringing someone else into that love story. And I'll give you one quick example of what that's like, and because I don't want to take up too much time.
No, it's fine. We have time.
Some people, so there's 7 love stories. One of the top love stories is a fantasy love story. I mean, that's the hopeless romantic. They're looking to be rescued. They're looking for that happily ever after. You've seen it in fairy tales and fantasies, all of these different things. And a lot of people fall into that category. They're looking to be swept off their feet. They're looking to be courted. They're looking to be, they want the doors open. I mean, all these different little things that we talked about in terms of the list. And you had this thing in your head. But then there's like this story that's called The Shopper. It's the shopper story. The shopper story is someone who is a commitment phobe. They simply like to collect meaningful relationships. Now, they don't have to be committed to those relationships. They just like to have several relationships at one time. They'll take one piece of that one piece of that one piece of that one. They might be totally committed to that one relationship for that specific reason. However, they like to collect other specific reasons as well. So it's probably the person that you can imagine is the commitment phobe that or like the serial monogamous person, right? Then you have like the fixer story. And a lot of people fall into this category because you're always trying to fix someone or change someone or help someone after a divorce, after a breakup or job loss or something to that effect. And you're trying your best to come into that person's life and to fix them.
Right.
Now, the problem is that you can't have a fantasy person with a fixer.
Oh,
That's true.
You can't have a shopper with a fantasy person. Those two don't mix. And if you're meeting men or women with these different love stories, there's going to be a disconnect. And often, and you wonder why you date it seems like I'm dating the same person over and over and over again. It's not that you're dating the same person over and over again. You've created a story in your mind, a movie that you're the main character, and you keep recasting starring characters because you want your movie to end well. You want your movie to be the best movie possible and have the ending that you already have in your head. And because of that, you now just cast characters that fit that description. And because you keep casting those characters in that movie keeps flopping. And you keep getting. And the key to the success of that is find someone who has a compatible love story as you. So if a fixer finds a fixer, then guess what? They can fix each other.
Right. Yes. And they'll find value in that too. So someone who's in a fantasy that wouldn't find value in a fixer because it's like you're trying to fix something that might not even be able to be fixed.
Yeah. Absolutely.
You'll be more frustrated than anything else.
Right.
So it's the same concept when you're talking about love or life. And one of those things is you really just have to get clear about who you are, what you want. And then if you're really courageous, hey, get some support, whether that's a mentor, whether that's a community, a coach, someone who can support what it is that you're trying to do, and then get a system of being able to complete that so that you're not just running around like a chicken with his head cut off, but you're actually have a strategy that
with no plan.
Yeah. And a formula that actually works. And then that last part is get serious about what it is that you want, whether it's your dreams, your hopes, your plans.
Sure.
And getting serious means no excuses. So it's really simple. Get clear, get support, get a system, and get serious.
No, awesome.
That's awesome.
So, Jack, in 2012, you launched a personal campaign, which we love. I Need a Wife.
I Need a Wife.
What was your inspiration? What was your inspiration behind this campaign?
Yes, and what was your strategy too to lead you to finding a wife?
Part of your breakthrough, because it kind of correlates with what you just said about the analogy you just given about the love stories.
Yeah, believe it or not, I Need a Wife campaign wasn't about me.
Really? Okay, that's interesting.
It was really all about I was speaking and being the voice for men, and I was championing men who were saying, "Hey, I'm single, successful, ready to be married, but I can't seem to find a quality woman." And there were several guys that were coming to me and they were saying these things, and I'm like, "Well, let's talk about it." So the whole book of I Need a Wife is all about helping men understand themselves, and then why they do what they do in the context of relationships, but then giving them a blueprint and a strategy to be able to get out of that rut and out of that story that they've been telling themselves that there are no good women out there. And what I did was, which was interesting, because there were so many guys that were talking about this. I went across the country, 14 cities, and I think it was like 23,000 people showed up, and we had these symposiums of real guys saying, "Hey, I'm single, successful, ready to be married, and I can't find quality women." So we talked about commitment, women, relationships, sex, and we had these real conversations with men to talk about some of the things that they actually fear. Because a lot of times, if you think about a lot of these forums and relationship seminars and things that you go to, it's a lot of women talking.
A lot of women.
Yeah, there's a lot of women who are trying to decode what it is that men want.
And have no clue.
I'm always amazed. I'm like, there's so many women talking about that. I think, how you gonna tell a man what a man is thinking? How about just ask a man?
No, we've asked plenty of them.
We talk to them daily.
You're so right. We had to ask them.
So it was one of those things that it opened up so many eyes, and more importantly, a dialogue and conversation about some of the things that men actually were struggling with. And it was one of those situations where some women thought that what they thought in their minds and on their list and their unrealistic expectations, it kind of canceled out some of those things. So here's the interesting thing about that tour, the whole I Need a Wife tour. Out of all of the men who participated in that tour on the panels and all of those in all those different cities. Very interesting statistic, and that I'm very proud of. Which, by the way, that tour and that whole movement won an NAACP award.
That's incredible. Congratulations!
Yeah,
congratulations.
Thank you. And one of the reasons why is because out of all of those guys that participated and were honest enough, were vulnerable enough, and courageous enough to get on those stages and to unveil some of their deepest, darkest moments. One of the proudest things that I'm happy about is that 75% of every one of those guys are now either engaged or married.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
That amazing. It's amazing once you take one step toward getting unstuck. That's amazing. Mm-hmm.
And understanding too. I mean, they definitely wanted clearance, clearly, and clarity. So that's great.
Mm-hmm.
It's something that touches my heart because it's a reminder of, if you really are doing purpose-driven work, if you're really compassionate about what it is that you believe, and then you find a group of people who believe what you believe, then some magical things can happen. Now, I know y'all were asking that question thinking that I put on a T-shirt to go find my wife.
Well, it worked. It worked. Congratulations.
You found her. It worked for you too.
You know what's crazy? I didn't find her on the tour, which was like, number one, I wasn't looking for her. I was trying to help as many people as I possibly can. Now, that's a message for a lot of people that may be struggling with looking and searching. I was not looking for my wife. I was trying to help as many men in relationships as I possibly could. That was my purpose. I was doing purpose-driven work. Mm-hmm. When I found her, I was off tour. I had just finished speaking at my last event, and I went to another relationship seminar, and I sat through it, and we happened to sit next to each other. Mm-hmm. That's where I met her. And
that's right.
It was like totally amazing because we were definitely compatible stories, and I never met a woman who made me feel that I could be me without compromise, without hiding, without pretending, without worrying about some of my deepest fears being unveiled. I felt safe enough and vulnerable enough to totally be me. And she brought that out of me. And it was, but here's what I want to say about that. It wasn't that she just did those things. It was the vibration of me operating in my purpose that allowed her to poke through the bubble and the wall that I built around myself for so long. Mm-hmm. And that wall came from hurt. It came from feeling unworthy. It came from being embarrassed or blaming or rejection, all of those different things that probably happened at some point in relationships down the line. She was able to take a sledgehammer and break down that wall and say, I don't care, you matter. Mm-hmm. And here's the biggest thing she said, I see you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's great.
Seeing me was one of those things that I was totally in love with her about, because I was able to do the exact same thing for her. But for me as a man, I think it was important because what people don't talk about in terms of manhood, it's really hard being a man.
Oh, yeah.
No, we can imagine. It's not easy.
It's rough.
I wouldn't trade places with you.
You know,
no.
And most men won't tell you this. We won't talk about it, but it's hard being a man. And oftentimes we get it misconstrued that it's easy. We can do what we want. We can walk away. But you know what? There's so many pressures that go along with being a man. There's so many levels of responsibility. There's so many levels of resentment that we carry, rejection that we get on a daily basis. It's so much that the mechanisms of manhood haven't been defined in a way that we understand our levels of masculinity. And it's this story that we have in our head that if we can't get a model for what it is that we believe or that we conceive in our minds, oftentimes we'll do it alone. which is why you see a lot of men operating alone. You see a lot of men spending time alone. They'll be playing video games or watching television or off to themselves, driving in the car, sitting at the bar. All of these different types of things that we do is simply because of the modeling that we've had and the hard thing that comes along with being a man. So for her to see me and to say that I don't need her approval, I don't need anyone else's approval. I'm going to love you for who it is that you are, whether you think you're a man or you don't think you're a man. I like who it is that you are. I love who it is that you are, and I'm willing to grow with you. That's a big deal. And for any man, if you want to impress your man, because I know it's a lot of women that are listening, not impress him, but if you really want to be connected to your man, say these 4 words: I believe in you.
Oh gosh, we say that all the time. Powerful. We coach that all the time. That's
it's so powerful. It's so powerful because, believe it or not, men are not as confident as you would like to believe. We're not.
That's right. No. That's right. You're right. You're right. That's what they tell us.
Figuring it out just like we are, but have to have more of a strong facade.
And they just want encouragement. They want support and encouragement.
Hey, if you say you believe in me, I'm gonna move mountains for you.
That's right.
I'm gonna do so many things for you, because that to me is gold. I don't care. You can have the best punnan. You can do whatever, all of that. But guess what? That's temporary satisfaction.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. You stand behind me.
Fades, but that belief system of saying you believe in me, and because you believe in me, you'll challenge me to be a better me. And because you're challenging me to be a better me, I am going to be a better me. That makes me a man.
Oh yeah, that's marriage material there. I mean, that's great. Marriage material, what you've described. A lot of times people will ask us, so what, is the difference between, me just sleeping with someone, or why does, he choose someone else? So I think that is a key reason that they end up marrying, just having that safe place. And so I know that our time is winding up, but so let us know maybe 2 things. So one, what are some of the things that our listeners should look for to know, that give them a clue that they might need some help in getting a breakthrough? Because sometimes we walk around with the weight of the world on our shoulders, and we've just grown so accustomed to carrying it that we don't even know. So what signs could they maybe think of to say, you know what, I need to really overcome this? And then maybe 1 or 2 takeaways of how to move out of their own way.
Things to look for are just that those messages and those stories that you hear inside of your head. And typically they sound like, I'll never make it.
Sure.
I'll fall behind. I'll be poor. I won't be accepted. I won't increase. I won't do what it is that I know that I've been destined to do. It's not like I'll ever measure up, or some of those things that you don't know what you are. You don't know how to do what it is that you want. You don't have any help. You're not sure if you're ready. You're afraid of change. All of these different messages and stories that you get inside of your head. The first thing I tell you is to not make any more excuses. And excuses are nothing but these sophisticated lies that you secretly tell yourself and then try your best to sell to everyone else. That's an excuse.
Yes, it is.
Sure is.
As a result of an excuse, you then revert to escapism. And escapism is this distraction path that you'll do anything to avoid what it is that you're supposed to be doing, whether that's your dreams, your plans, your diary, the thing that you're supposed to be doing that drives you. You'll escape and avoid it, whether that's playing video games, whether that's talking to your girlfriends, going out on dates, binge watching Netflix,
throwing yourself into work.
Throwing yourself into work, and you'll have this level of escapism that doesn't allow you to really, really tap in to who it is that you are. And then this is a term that I want to introduce to you. As a result of excuses, as a result of escapism, you'll then go into this emotional, listen to this now, emotional impotence.
Oh, wow.
It's the distance that you put between your purpose and the person that you know that you actually are. You start to feel numb. You start to feel awkward and not really thinking about some of the things. And you just get into this void of saying it doesn't really matter. I don't really care about it. And you don't have any passion in it. You lack it because you've been avoiding it for so long, making excuses and escaping from it. You don't even have the passion anymore. So I tell you, you have to stop doing that. And the way that you do that is to, one, have the courage to simply do something different. So if something isn't working and it's not like something that you know that you, or a place that you know you want to be, have the courage to do something different. And then the second thing is have the conviction to believe that you can actually do it, not being locked up in jail or in handcuffs or anything. But I'm talking about conviction in terms of your belief system, changing that belief system inside of your mind, changing that story that's inside of your mind, changing that movie that you've been replaying and having a recurring role in, changing that script and recasting the characters that you know you need inside of you, inside of your story, to be able to have the life that you want. And the last thing, which is the most important thing, having the courage, having the conviction, having the commitment.
Wow. Oh, definitely.
Commitment is so powerful in a lot of different ways, because oftentimes people don't commit. And I tell people all the time, the problem with what you're doing and the problem of why you're not where you want to be is because you haven't totally committed. You haven't sold out. You haven't told yourself that I'm going to show up and I'm going to do what's necessary, regardless of the repercussions, ramifications for rebelling against what it is that I know, that I believe. You simply are going through the motions. And you're not really committing yourself 100% to what it is that you believe and what it is that you actually want. So that, for that one reason, that commitment to actually make the decision without regret, to make the decision that you know that is going to make you happy, and not utilizing it as a bargaining chip to come back and say, well, I tried, but I knew it wasn't going to work. No, commit.
Right.
So, courage to do something different, the conviction to believe you can actually accomplish it, and then the commitment to simply finish what you start. That's the definition of staying out of your own way and having what it is that you know is that you've always wanted.
Oh, you've heard it here. The courage, the conviction, and the commitment. Wow. Thank you so much.
Awesome. I think our listeners have definitely, I know when we talked in the beginning, we wanted them to be able to have some really important information to take away.
Takeaways. So absolutely.
That's awesome.
This was great, Jack. We want to hear what's next for you.
Well, I'm going to go and I'm going to eat some lunch.
For the Jack A. Daniels story.
I've been working pretty heavily on some television projects on the front end and on the back end. So in terms of talent as well as producing some things, we've started a media company, and we've got like 15 shows in the kitty.
Oh, wow. Congratulations. Awesome. That's incredible.
Thank you. So I've been working on that. And then, I work with my wife, and we work together on our business, and we have, she's got a book that's coming out that's called Believe Bigger. And it's coming out at the top of next year. So we're actually prepping for the tour. We got a big conference that's coming up this fall that we're getting ready for, and definitely inviting as many of your listeners as possible.
Of course.
Absolutely. We all want to believe bigger.
We sure do.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's all about, disrupting your patterns and acknowledging some of the things that you've been disregarding in terms of your purpose. It's an amazing display of genius on her part. And I ain't just saying that because
but she is pretty genius.
She is.
Yeah, it's awesome. I mean, she put her everything into this, and I think it's going to be amazing. So, I still make some pop-up appearances here and there in terms of events, but I'm always around in terms of doing what it is to help people move forward in life and love. For the listeners that are listening to this, I would love it if you want more and you know you're struggling with clarity and getting unstuck and committing to what it is that you know you need to be doing. Can I give away something for free?
You absolutely can.
We love free stuff.
Okay. I wanted to make sure. I didn't know for sure, but simply go to expectancy.tv. That's expectancy.tv. And log into there, and it's a free workshop, a free seminar. You don't have to do anything. Just go to it and listen and learn and take as many notes as you possibly can, share it with people. But more importantly, consume that for yourself, consume that messaging, consume some of the things that I'm talking about for yourself to be able to have the life and love that you actually deserve. I can't stress enough how important it is to continue these types of conversations, ladies. I think what you're doing is amazing.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much.
I encourage you to keep doing this and keep challenging us to push ourselves to a higher level, because I think it's so important. And that's, all the elements of staying out of your own way. So I don't know what else you got.
Well, we want you to tell our listeners where to find you.
Mm-hmm. Social media, your website.
You can go to jackdaniels.tv and you could find everything else about me in terms of social media and all that. Social media, you can find me. Jack A. Daniels on social media. Okay. Connect with me, talk with me, all those types of things. I'm an avid, I like watching live shows. So if I ever watch TV, I'm tweeting live. So that's one of my guilty pleasures. So
wonderful. Well, we appreciate you. So now we have some tips on how to get unstuck and stay out of our own way. So the infamous Jack A. Daniels. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Jack, for coming on our show today. We certainly appreciate you, and we hope to have you back in the future.
Yes, and for those of you, again, who are listening for the first time, the Love Her Show with the Duo, I'm Kelly Fisher.
I'm Tana Gilmore.
And together, we're the Matchmaking Duo. So we'll see you on a future episode.
Bye.
You discover just how to love her, to embrace the love inside of you, 'cause there will only be one you. Be your best lover, then you discover just how to love her.